So friends, there have been some legal developments in the Abrego Garcia unconstitutional deportation case, and one media outlet ran this headline. Federal judge delivers a 1-2 punch to Trump in Abrego Garcia case. And friends, it may surprise you which media outlet ran that headline. Let's talk about that, because justice matters. Hey all, Glenn Kirshner here. So friends, it seems like an eternity since Donald Trump's administration unconstitutionally deported Abrego Garcia to a prison in El Salvador in violation of both his constitutional due process rights and in violation of a court order that prohibited him from being deported specifically to El Salvador. But I saw there were some legal developments in the case, so I began reading up on them earlier today, and I found a headline that comes from a pretty unusual source, the Fox network. I try never to call it Fox News for obvious reasons, but here's the headline I came across. Federal judge delivers 1-2 punch to Trump in Abrego Garcia case. And that article begins, a federal judge granted a request Wednesday from more than a dozen major news outlets and publishers to unseal certain records in the case of Kilmar Armando Abrego Garcia, the Salvadoran migrant and alleged MS-13 member who was deported from Maryland to El Salvador in March in what administration officials have acknowledged was an administrative error. Separately on Wednesday, U.S. District Judge Paula Xinis granted a request from Abrego Garcia's legal team to file a motion for sanctions against the Trump administration. That filing is due June 11, the judge said in an order. The 1-2 punch from Judge Xinis could give plaintiffs new ammo to pursue more formal punishment against the Trump administration if officials are found to have been acting in bad faith or knowingly defying court orders. It will also give new access to media outlets covering the case. Xinis agreed to grant, in part, a request from a group of 14 major media outlets and publishers, including the Fox Network, NBC News, CBS News, the New York Times, the Washington Post, and NPR, who filed a motion to unseal records in the Abrego Garcia case, citing concerns over the lack of public access, as well as over government efforts, or lack thereof, to facilitate his return to the U.S. In her order, Judge Xinis agreed with the contention of the news outlets, referred to jointly as the press movements, that the public enjoys a presumptive right to access court records, overcome only when outweighed by competing interests. As such, the judge ordered the Trump administration to unseal a handful of documents that have so far been filed under seal as part of a protected legal battle over the status of Abrego Garcia. The judge also ordered them to unseal a transcript from an April 30th hearing in the case. Quote, the right to public access of court records remains critical to promoting trustworthiness of the judicial process, to curb judicial abuses, and to provide the public with a more complete understanding of the judicial system, including a better perception of fairness, she said Wednesday. Lawyers for the government, DOJ, and Abrego Garcia's attorneys have sparred with the judge in court over what exactly it means to facilitate his return, a months-long fight that Xinis most recently described as beating a frustrated and dead horse. Judge Xinis previously took aim at what she deemed to be the lack of information submitted to the court as part of an expedited discovery process she ordered last month, describing the government DOJ's submissions as vague, evasive, and incomplete responses, and which she said demonstrated willful and bad faith refusal to comply with discovery obligations. That reporting from, of all places, the Fox network. Interesting, right? Okay, let's drill down a little bit. Now, the unsealing part is pretty self-explanatory. There were some documents and some transcripts that were filed under seal, so we haven't seen them. The media hasn't had access to them, and the media intervened. They filed a motion saying, this ain't right. We need access. We need transparency. We need to have confidence in the way these proceedings are progressing. And the judge agreed. So she has ordered some stuff unsealed, and it looks like we will see it very soon. So we'll follow up when we get to see those documents and those transcripts. But what I want to talk about a little bit more is the sanctions motion part. First of all, let's do a quick recap. Judge Xinis ordered the Trump administration to facilitate the release of Abrego Garcia and treat his case as it should have been treated and would have been treated had he not been unconstitutionally deported. And it became apparent pretty quickly that the Trump administration was not inclined to do anything to abide by that court order. So what Judge Xinis did was she ordered discovery. What does that mean? It means she gave Abrego Garcia's legal team permission, the authority to get information and evidence from the Trump administration. One, she ordered depositions where Abrego Garcia's lawyers can place Trump administration officials under oath and examine them, question them, to try to get to the bottom of what they were or were not doing to facilitate his release and return, to comply with the judge's order. She also ordered the production of documents. Abrego Garcia's lawyers could demand by court order that certain documents be produced to shed light on what the Trump administration was or was not doing. And it looks now like the Trump administration is apparently also violating these discovery orders. And that's what brings us to a sanctions motion. So lawyers are not supposed to just willy-nilly file for sanctions, alleging that, the opponent's doing all kinds of things wrong. There had to be a showing made, and Abrego Garcia's attorneys filed a motion under seal, we haven't yet seen it, seeking authority to apply for sanctions. The obvious allegation being DOJ is now violating the discovery orders as well, and the judge granted that motion for Abrego Garcia's lawyers to pursue sanctions. And we'll talk about what those sanctions are in a minute. But now, let's turn to the wonderful world of Federal Rule of Procedure 37, sanctions for violating discovery orders. Now, friends, this area of civil procedure and civil practice can be pretty dry, pretty dense. Let me just boil it down to its essence. If a party, the Trump administration, is violating court-ordered discovery, the opposing party can move for sanctions, and that is what Abrego Garcia's lawyers have done. What do sanctions look like? Well, they can include things like forcing the Trump administration to pay for any expenditures that Abrego Garcia's legal team has had to make pursuing this discovery. It can also include awarding attorney's fees to Abrego Garcia's legal team. It can result in the Trump administration being precluded from using evidence that might be helpful to their case. Basically, they forfeit the right to use the good stuff because they're not complying with court-ordered discovery. It can even include what's called a default judgment. The judge can say, this case, is over. Trump administration, you lose. Now, that's the kind of remedy that is often in play when you have two parties actively litigating issues like this with a view toward ultimately a trial being conducted. And we're not really going to have a full trial in this case. This is the federal judge trying to convince, cajole, coerce, compel the Trump administration to abide by federal court orders. That's the goal here. So these sanctions feel like they are perhaps of limited utility in getting toward that goal. But let me tell you what I think is really going on here. This feels like just another step on the road to contempt. This feels like Abrego Garcia's legal team, by bringing to the judge's attention that the Trump administration is violating more court orders, court-ordered discovery, and seeking sanctions for that, feels like they're just kind of filling up the contempt bucket. And eventually, I am pretty darn sure Judge Xinis is going to get to the point where she will institute formal contempt proceedings. And that can include up to and including imprisoning, incarcerating, jailing Trump administration officials for their willful violation, repeated violation of court orders. It looks like it's headed in that direction, and that's where it should end up. Because justice matters. Friends, as always, please stay safe, please stay tuned, and I look forward to talking with you all again tomorrow.